Divine Blacksmith Zhenhua and dividing the first grade. Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 87. Without any delay, start explanation. Afterward, he was reduced to the status of a pariah. That wouldn't discourage him though. One of the reasons why he had wanted to be a working student was to find the fallen angel girl. But after asking around, it became clear to him there was no red-haired girl among the working students. With no other paths to explore, he could only go report his findings to the academy. Yet what he was told was still the same as the first encounter. They told him the academy would handle it, and as a student, his job was to study instead of chasing fruitless endeavors. There was a silver lining to all this, though. Yu Zhenyu had always been taken with the legends of the working students. Now that he was a working student himself, he was even more curious. Even though entering the inner court was a given for him, he wanted to know more about the types of people waving the working student's banner. Now, he would be able to see for himself. As for becoming Yuanen's roommate, that was truly out of his hands and of the academy's doing. They were both second-grade students after all. You sure have the cheek to threaten me. The entire room shook as the voice thundered through, splitting eardrums along the way. It was a peculiar-looking room, stretching over 300 square meters in area and made entirely of metal. Be it the chair, the table, or the equipment, all of it was metal. It was a futuristic metal world in here. The voice belonged to a tall man with long legs and lean muscles. His thick black hair accentuated his features, drawing out his chiseled jawline and fierce gaze. It was hard to guess his age from his appearance alone. He didn't look to be more than 30 years old, but his eyes betrayed the wisdom of one who had experienced many decades. The hair at his temples was a snowy white, contrasting with the rest of his dark mane. But most striking of all were his hands. They were much larger than an ordinary person's. The joints were inconspicuous, fair, and slender like a maiden's, and his palms were as translucent as jade. But his eyes? They blazed like fire. That's right. I'm threatening you, chirped a middle-aged man, his lips revealing a carefree and daring smile. If Tang Wulin were here to witness this scene, he would hardly believe his eyes. Currently, his mild and refined teacher looked the part of a ruffian. The grinning man was, without a doubt, the president of East Sea Blacksmiths Association and the Sky Sea Alliance's greatest blacksmith, Mu Chen. When you said you wanted to move to that city where even the birds won't shit at, I let you have your way. The Sky Sea Alliance's economy is thriving under your guidance, yet now you're telling me that you want to resign. Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? The black-haired man's voice was thick with irritation. He gritted his teeth as he settled the raging fire of his thoughts. Why does this guy get my blood boiling every time I see him? Mu Chen was all smiles. It's precisely because the Sky Sea Alliance is on the right track that they don't need me anymore. So I want to resign now. I'm a saint blacksmith, and I want to one day become a divine blacksmith. Zhenhua, you've already eaten your fill, so you don't understand what it's like to still be hungry. This whole time I've been slowing consolidating my foundation in preparation to attack the next level. Bullshit. You're not even a title Doluo yet. Trying to become a divine blacksmith now is nonsense. Tell me your actual reason, otherwise I won't allow you to resign. The smile on Mu Chen's lips gained a touch of mischief. He eyed Zhenhua, the president of the Doluo Continent Blacksmiths Association and the only divine blacksmith on the continent. Whatever. I don't care if you approve or not anymore. I'm leaving. Mu Chen rose from his seat and made for the door. Get back here. In a flash, Zhenhua threw his body in front of Mu Chen, obstructing his path. I'll allow it, but you have to give me a legitimate reason first. In case you didn't realize, I still need to give an explanation to the other high-ranking members in the association. As one of the association's pillars, how can you just leave like this? Zhenhua shook a finger at him. Voice growing louder by the second. What do you want me to do? Aren't we brothers? I can't believe you would just abandon me like this. Have you no conscience? Mu Chen's eye twitched. Don't try that with me. It won't work. We've known each other for far too long for you to play that kind of game. All right. Fine. I'll give you some face. I won't completely resign, but I want you to transfer me to another branch. I've been in the outskirts of the continent for too long now. I want to live in the core of the continent. He placed a hand to his chin, giving off the impression of thinking hard. You know, Shrek City seems pretty nice. Make me the president of the branch over there. If you do, I'll stay in the association. If you don't, then I guess it's time for me to go. You want to be the president of the Shrek City branch? Was this your aim all along? Just as Mu Chen understood him, he understood Mu Chen. Well, it wasn't hard for this to be so. They had known each other since childhood and became blacksmiths together. Both were geniuses, inspiring the awe of those around them. There were many similarities between them. And while they were best friends, they were also rivals. In fact, they had even fallen in love with the same girl. In the end, the two were faced with a difficult choice: chase the dream or chase love. Zhenhua chose to further his career. Mu Chen chose to marry the girl. Mu Chen wasn't at the remote East Sea City just because it was his hometown. Fine. Go to Shrek City then. But let me remind you of what sort of place Shrek City is. All associations are weak there because of Shrek Academy's influence. Don't forget, Shrek's own Blacksmiths Association houses that lunatic. You need to be careful if you're going there. You and that old lunatic are at the same blacksmithing level, but in a fight? Not even 10 of you could match one of him. Don't provoke him. Mu Chen smiled wryly. So what if he gets angry? Don't I have your backing? If he troubles me, I'll just throw him your way. The corner of Zhenhua's mouth began to twitch. Do I owe you something? That's right. Taken aback, Zhenhua forced out a bitter laugh. Fine, fine. You win. Is Bao doing well? She's doing great, chirped Mu Chen. Zhenhua scratched the back of his head. You always know how to take advantage of people. Back then, if it wasn't for... Oh, whatever. I'm done with you. I'll just treat this as a favor to you and your wife. When do you plan on leaving for Shrek City? Immediately, Mu Chen answered. If he didn't hurry, he was afraid his disciple would be swiped right under his nose. Is little she going with you too? Zhenhua asked. Yeah. My daughter and wife are coming along. Can you pull some strings to get little she into Shrek Academy? Zhenhua's cheek twitched again. Why are you blabbering that like that's an easy thing to do? But isn't it, said Mu Chen, wiggling his eyebrows. Simple? The room shook once more from thundering voice. You're just trying to make me suffer, aren't you? That's right. Get out. Get out now. I don't want to see your smug face any longer. Sun with rays. What are you doing? Tang Wulin watched as Yuan washed some items in front of the tap, eyes curious. He's already cleaning so early in the morning? Is he a clean freak? Yuan held a door expression, gaze settling on the younger boy. An annoying pest came, so I switched rooms. Now I need to clean. You Jingyu. You know about it. Suspicion peppered Yuan's expression. Yeah. I heard it from him. You guys are in the same class anyway. Yuan nodded. I don't want anything to do with him. Is he in the dormitory now? Yeah. Tang Wulin smiled. Then I'll go welcome our new fellow working student. With that, he made his way to Yuan's old room. Yuan frowned while watching him leave. For some reason, he had the gut feeling Tang Wulin was up to no good. Well, he's scheming against Yu Jingyu, so it's fine. Once he reached his destination, Tang Wulin knocked on the door. Who is it? After opening the door, Yu Jingyu was surprised to come face to face with Tang Wulin. I heard you've moved in, so I came to welcome you. Come on in. Yu Jingyu didn't seem at all happy. This was because after exploring the entire dormitory, Yu Jingyu came to a depressing realization. The conditions here were far too shabby for a young master like him. But true to his proud nature, he found it impossible to abandon a plan halfway through. And if Yuan could live here, then so could he. Yu Jingyu's dorm room was like Tang Wulin's, simple and practical. It was already quite clean, a sign of Yuan's previous efforts. He sat on the side of his bed. Sorry, I don't have much to entertain guests with yet. Just take a seat wherever you can. I've got to say though, the living conditions for you working students are absolutely horrible. Tang Wulin shrugged. You're a working student now too, you know. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. We'll just have to suffer some hardships. Oh right, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. Maybe you'll be interested. What is it? Tang Wulin extended both his hands, and in a flash of light, 2 pieces of metal appeared in his palms. The moment the metals materialized, light scattered off of them into an array of bright specks, painting the room like a sea of stars. Yu Jingyu's eyes lit up at the sight. This is meteoric iron. With his background, there was no way he wouldn't recognize what was in front of him. Tang Wulin smiled. It's just as you say. This is first-grade 1000 refined meteoric iron. I'm sure you know of its high quality. Unfortunately, because of how arrogant it is, it's impossible to spirit refine it. So, its limit is first-grade 1000 refined. But this is still the best material for a mecha or one-word battle armor. If you're interested, then make me an offer. Indeed, the metal in his hands were the 2 chunks of meteoric iron he had obtained from Feng Wuyu. He could sell them to Yuan, but that would mean he couldn't gouge him for a high price. They had too good of a relationship for such schemes. Not only was meteoric iron rare, it possessed many amazing qualities. Because of this and several other reasons, these 2 pieces of first-grade 1000 refined meteoric iron were comparable to spirit-refined metals of other kinds. He would be ashamed if he couldn't sell these 2 pieces for a high price. No way was he missing a single contribution point. After all, those points added up to pay for expensive meals. State your price, Yu Jingyu said. With a flip of his hands, the 2 metals vanished from sight. I guess you're not that interested then. Tang Wulin spun on his heel to leave. Hey! Hold on a second. How can you be so impatient? Yu Jingyu hastily called out. The number 1 priority for people their age and cultivation level was to become a one-word battle armor master. As a result, top-quality metal was in high demand at Shrek Academy. It was a miracle for meteoric iron to even be put on sale. I don't have too many points, Yu Jingyu said helplessly. I just resumed my studies here at the academy. But what I do have is money. Since it's impossible to buy points with money, why don't I just pay you with money? Tang Wulin's pulse quickened, his greed creeping to the front of his mind. But in the end, he shook his head. No. I'll only accept contribution points or spirit items. Spirit items? What spirit items do you want? I want 1000-year earth dragon crystal, ice essence, dragon spirit grass, and longevity grass. Are you a bandit? That's robbery. Yu Jingyu huffed, shaking his head. Do you think I'm an idiot? The total value of those 4 spirit items is way higher than that of your 2 pieces of meteoric iron. There's no comparison. Just 1000-year longevity grass is already so much rarer than meteoric iron. It can extend longevity, you know? Anyone who eats it will have their lifespan increased by 5 years. You can search as hard as you want, but it'll be a miracle if you find it on the market. And even if you do, it'd cost an arm and a leg. No deal. You're asking for far too much. At best, I can get you 2 of the 4 spirit items. 2? Tang Wulin was taken aback. He quickly regained himself, however, a smile blossoming on his lips. All right. We're both working students, so I understand how hard things are for us. 2 is fine. I want 1000-year longevity grass and 1000-year dragon spirit grass. Sound good? Yu Jingyu rolled his eyes. Tell me how you got these 2 pieces of meteoric iron first. Tang Wulin didn't hide anything. He explained how he was abducted by Feng Wuyu, forced to refine some metal, and came out of it successful. So you're telling me you first grade 1000 refined these two pieces yourself? And at the same time? With each question, Yu Jingyu's eyes sparkled brighter and brighter. Tang Wulin nodded. There's no point for me to lie about it. If you don't believe me, then just ask Elder Feng. Here, take a look at my 4th rank blacksmith's badge. Yu Jingyu carefully accepted the badge in his hands. After a moment of inspection, he nodded. Yeah. This badge is definitely real. All right. You've got a deal then. I'll get you a 1000-year longevity grass and a 1000-year dragon spirit grass. It'll take me about a week, so don't you dare sell the meteoric iron in the meantime. It's settled then. Tang Wulin held out his hand. In a matter of seconds, Yu Jingyu accepted and they shook hands. One step out of Yu Jingyu's room, Tang Wulin sported a fox-like expression. He had originally aimed for one spirit item, and even then he hadn't thought he'd get it. Although meteoric iron was valuable, it was not much rarer than other metals. It couldn't compare in rarity or value with spirit items. Tang Wulin estimated each piece of his meteoric iron to be worth about 2 or 3 million federal coins. So, about 5 or 6 million in total. Each of the listed spirit items was necessary for breaking his 3rd seal, and any one of them alone was well worth over 6 million federal coins. Yu Jingyu had been spot on about longevity grass. It was extremely rare with few opportunities to purchase it. Money was important, but even more so was life. Throughout the ages, lifespan increasing spirit items were always the most expensive. So, Tang Wulin had fought to contain a grin when Yu Jingyu offered to pay with 2 spirit items. For the previous seal, he had barely been able to buy the 4 required spirit items after saving up money for 3 years straight. But now, he was already halfway done for the 3rd seal. With this stroke of luck, he could relax and focus on cultivation for a while. However, with his back turned to Yu Jingyu, he didn't see the older youth's expression. Yu Jingyu revealed a similarly sly and fox-like smile. Working students really are geniuses. He has to be at the peak of the 4th rank to 1st grade 1000 refine. I'll butter him up for now and make him feel like he's in the superior position. Then he'll give priority to my requests in the future. My clan doesn't lack in money or spirit items anyway. He laughed, mischief thick in his voice. That guy's only about 13 years old too. I've never heard of a 4th rank blacksmith so young. Moreover, he's at the peak of the 4th rank. I have to forge a firm connection with him. In Yu Jingyu's view, not just anyone could act like a rich man. A rich man had to be knowledgeable. By suffering a loss now and giving Tang Wulin the illusion of the upper hand in their relationship, he would become one of Tang Wulin's favorite customers. For the rich, networking was far more important than money. Fledgling businessmen could never compete with the networks of old money. The chances of treasure falling into old money's hands were higher than for new money. The reason was simple: established businessmen could leverage their connections for access to these treasures. Tang Wulin's mistake had been only considering the market price of meteoric iron. He had failed to consider his value as a blacksmith prodigy. Yu Jingyu had eyes for the future and sprang at the chance to create a favorable relationship. No matter how one thought of it, Yu Jingyu had been cheated in their deal, but he still came out ahead. Sun with rays. Xinyi stood at the lectern, a stern expression on her face. Before I start teaching today, I want to say 2 things. First, for the council representatives, count the number of people in your profession after class and have them register for the appropriate association. Of course, membership is not required. But they will receive preferential treatment if they join. All of you will also need the backing of the associations to progress in your profession, otherwise you'll have to pay for the costs out of pocket. Naturally, the price is in contribution points. Second of all, Wu Zhongkong will be instructing the class today. Xinyi nodded to Wu Zhongkong, offering her position at the lectern to him. Teacher Wu. Tang Wulin subconsciously straightened his posture. Once Wu Zhongkong ascended to the lectern, he swept his icy gaze through the whole class like a winter tide. The entire lecture theater's temperature seemed to drop a few degrees, everyone's focus sharpening. Today is the first official day of class. The curriculum here will be nothing like what you're used to. For any questions about your martial souls or what cultivation path to take, you may ask Teacher Shen or me after class. Today, we will be going over the basics of mecha making. Mecha making? Tang Wulin's gaze was devoid of their usual spark as he stared at Wu Zhongkong. Teacher Wu, why are you teaching us that? Aren't we working to become battle armor masters? Among you, there are designers, makers, mechanics, and blacksmiths, Wu Zhongkong said, cold as usual. Simply put, creating a mecha requires these four professions to work together. I'm sure you're all curious about why the Academy is teaching you the basics of mecha making. In order to become a battle armor master, you first have to study the foundation of battle armor, mechas. High-end mechas are just about as powerful as low-end battle armor. A blacksmith forges the metal used to make the mecha, a designer drafts the mecha's blueprint, a maker assembles the mecha, and a mechanic decides how long the mecha can be used. Battle armor is made in much the same way. Now let's discuss the fundamental principles of mechas. Wu Zhongkong began his lecture. However, he didn't cover the basics of mecha making alone. He also discussed how makers worked with blacksmiths, designers, and mechanics. It was a comprehensive lecture. By the time morning classes were over, Tang Wulin's understanding of mechas had grown far more profound. After counting the students of each profession, this class of 101 students discovered that it only had 8 blacksmiths. This was reportedly the highest number of blacksmiths in a class in recent years, not to mention blacksmithing geniuses like Tang Wulin and Yang Nianxia. Mecha designers were the majority, tallying up to 34 in total. Mecha makers followed closely at 31, and the remainder were mechanics. The 3 main professions were relatively balanced. Class is over, Shen Yi announced. Class council members, stay behind. Tang Wulin, Ji Yu, Wu Sidua, and Luo Guixing stayed in their seats. Go to your respective associations and get their help with registering all of the people in your profession. Then discuss how to divide the class into groups with an even balance of each profession. We only have 8 blacksmiths. Excluding Tang Wulin, you need to distribute 7, so it would be best to create 7 groups, 1 around each blacksmith. Get familiar with the abilities of the students in your profession and divide them so that the groups are about equal in talent. Tang Wulin nodded. The class council received an allowance of contribution points, but it definitely wasn't free. Here are everyone's school registration forms. The profession and rank of each student is recorded. Their martial soul and soul power rank are listed as well. You 4 will have to go over every single form and analyze the strengths of each student. As the last of the other students trickled out of the classroom, only Tang Wulin, Ji Yu, Wu Sidua, and Luo Guixing remained in the classroom. The 4 of them flipped through the stack of papers in silence. It wasn't unusual for Luo Guixing to keep quiet, but Tang Wulin occasionally caught a glimpse of a rare, mysterious smile on his lips. Tang Wulin couldn't even begin to guess what was going on in Luo Guixing's mind. On the other hand, Wu Sidua crossed her arms and gave Tang Wulin a cold glare. Ji Yu simply leaned back in her chair, an aura of serenity around her. This is our first time working together, so I'll say a few words. Tang Wulin flashed a radiant smile at them. As class president, he couldn't shirk his responsibilities. His position was lofty and his responsibilities were just as heavy. According to Teacher Shen's instructions, we'll be dividing everyone into groups centered around the profession with the lowest number of students. Aside from me, we have 7 blacksmiths, so we'll have 7 groups with 1 blacksmith each. I have already skimmed through the papers and ascertained that we have 1 blacksmith at the first rank, 5 at the second, and 1 at the third. There's a gap between the second and third ranks, but it isn't too large. The difference between first and second ranks, however, is gigantic. In order to be fair, I will be troubling you 3 to help me place stronger designers, mechanics, and makers in the first-rank blacksmiths group. After all, Teacher Shen was pretty clear about wanting the overall skill level of each group to be balanced. Ji Yu nodded. I have no problems with that. Designers make up a majority of the class. With 34 of them, there'll be 6 groups with 5 designers and 1 group with 4. The third-rank Blacksmiths group should have 4 designers. I'll make sure the skill levels are balanced. I don't have a problem with that either. Luo Guixing gave Tang Wulin a friendly grin as he spoke. It shouldn't be too hard to distribute them fairly. I'll get started. The sooner we finish, the sooner we get off. Wu Sidhua simply nodded silently. Making each group wasn't too hard. It was impossible to make every group perfectly equal in ability, but they got as close as they could. After a while, the 4 of them finished up and Tang Wulin took the papers in his hands. "All right, looks like we're done," he said. "You guys can go home and rest. I'll submit the groups to Teacher Shen." "I'll trouble class president to do so then," Luo Guixing said, and he stood up and left. A grim expression on her face, Wu Sidhua stood up without saying a word and left as well. After the other 2 left, Ji Yu's impassive expression thawed a bit as she shot a glance at Tang Wulin. "Wow, the president is so well respected," she cooed. "Neither of them accept him yet." "That's to be expected," Tang Wulin replied, giving her a wry smile. "Everyone at Shrek is a genius, so who wouldn't be proud? I'll just win them over slowly. In the future, if I no longer qualify for the position or someone better comes along, I wouldn't want to be class president anyway. Well, let's get going. I'll deliver these papers to Teacher Shen and then go back and meditate." Although food consumed a large chunk of his contribution points every day, Tang Wulin could clearly feel how beneficial it was for his blood essence and the cultivation speed of the mysterious heaven method. Regardless of the circumstances, increased growth in soul power was a good thing. Tang Wulin wasn't far from reaching rank 30. He understood that gaining his 3rd soul ring was currently his #1 priority. He would then be able to spirit refine and his contribution point worries would vanish. It was possible to fail when making battle armor. In fact, the usage of higher quality materials increased the probability of failure. In light of this, every student in Shrek Academy, all of whom were prospective battle armor masters, was always on the prowl for spirit-refined metal. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.